Oh, good.
Hey, everybody, and welcome. I'm Chris Woolley, and this is Let's Develop. And I appreciate you joining me here right before Thanksgiving. And we are going to have a bunch of fun education. We've got special guest David Lloyd today, and we're talking about selling the fantasy. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. This is a bi-weekly, so twice a month webinar series where we bring in awesome photographers from all over, and they share information with us so that we can strengthen our community, we can learn, and just kind of have fun and enjoy our craft. So we definitely have a nice community on here. So a big shout out to American Color Imaging for helping put this on, because yeah, it's a lot of fun to see. You can check out the full lineup on acilab.com/let's-develop, as well as catch the replay. If you missed the last episode, we had Rick Avalos on talking about photography, marketing, and sales. And the marketing aspect on that, that is huge. He goes over a lot of classic marketing principles that it's not as shiny and fancy as Facebook ads, but they're a lot more effective. I use them in my business, and it is crazy, crazy successful doing that. So I highly recommend going and checking that one out, especially if you're looking to revamp your marketing in the new year. So be sure to do that. So this is a live webinar, which means that if you have questions, put them into the chat, because when you put them into chat, then we can actually answer them. David's here. He's going to be answering those questions live, so we can interact on this one. So make sure we're taking advantage of that feature. And if you stay to the end, we've got some prizes and giveaways, as well as a special from ACI. So make sure that we're waiting for that one. And we're only at an hour before we get the countdown to Thanksgiving going. So let me introduce our guest, David Lloyd. And he's up on the screen now. We can see some samples of his work going through. But David, super, super nice and very well-educated gentleman here. He knows his lighting like crazy. I had the pleasure of meeting him several years ago. I was doing a pinup presentation at his guild in Arizona. And he had a literal book on off-camera flash lighting, and it was retro inspired. And I saw that book and was like, holy cow, I need to know this man more. And he does not disappoint. He knows his information. He's a published author because, well, we have his book. You can actually see it up on the screen right now, a little screenshot of what that is. College instructor, professional lighting tutor, Oscar recipient, aerospace design engineer. He was a designer for Vivitar, Lighting Gaffer. His list of accomplishments and accolades go on and on and on. He doesn't just know what works, he knows why it works and how it works. And he's here to share some more information for us and help us figure out a little bit more about how we can improve our photography. So welcome, David.
Yes, hi, Chris. It's a real treat to be here, and I'm excited to make this presentation and hopefully provide some really useful information for everyone. I've been a photographer for over a half a century, and gosh, I guess a little bit of the knowledge of it kind of wore off over time. I tend to be a very studious individual. So I like the technical side of photography, but I also like the creative side. So my brain gets mixed up with all of it sometimes.
Well, let's pick your brain. So we're
Yes,
selling the
you bet.
fantasy here today, huh?
Yes, selling the fantasy. So basically, as digital photographic artists, we're in the craft of selling the fantasy. And that really means that we are making things appear to be sometimes what they're not. So not only do we picture our subjects in the very best light, we endeavor to transform their likeness into a work of art, or at least that's the opportunity. 10,000 plus hours of study and education and continuing education and self-assignments, PPA merits and degrees. We study business and marketing and sales. Just how do we accomplish all of this? As professional photographers, we are obliged to wear many hats. Art director, we design and craft the scene and design the sets in our studio or an outdoor setting. Wardrobe stylist, we either provide the appropriate clothing for the session or guide our clients as to what to wear. Hair and makeup consultant? Well, we often hire a professional for that. It continues.
Lots of
Our
different ones.
hat, our hats also include lighting gaffer. Now, I was a lighting gaffer for NBC in 1968. I climbed up on the rafters and, pointed those hot lights toward the actors. So we find the ambient light, if we're doing a mixed lighting condition, then shape the light on the subject with reflectors and electronic flash or hot lights. Styling artist, we guide our clients with posing, wardrobe accessories, prop suggestions. Prop masters, we bring in the props to support the vision of our clients for the desired resulting photographs. Planning guide, we set up the scheduling for all of these various activities. And as a pro, we set and measure the light sources, make scene adjustments, decide on our camera settings, take preliminary lighting check photos with our light meter, Polaroids, or of course the digital back on our cameras, focus the camera, guide our subject's pose, elicit their expressions, and begin the session and take the shots. For the photographic process, however, we are now only 50% there, ready for the all-important post-processing, Photoshop image enhancements. And now we must sell the fantasy. Did we first set the stage with a prior consultation with our clients? Rewind. Where did this all begin? For me, as a new product design engineer for the Vivitar Corporation, that is, well, actually it all began at Optagon Research and Development, the design facility for Ponder and Best. As longtime distributors of photographic products, Ponder and Best started a new product line, and they called it Vivitar. Series 1 lenses and Vivitar flash. As a new employee, I designed prototype flash and darkroom products. And a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, 1977, when Star Wars came out, I was a young budding engineer for Vivitar. And I designed prototypes. There is pictured one with 3CPO trying to figure out what it is. But I received a patent for that. And as an avid amateur photographer, I went on to create a photography class for the Vivitar employees. Ponder and Best had changed their name to become the Vivitar Corporation. Fast forward just a few months to Tommy Mitchell's studio in Hollywood, California. This is a behind-the-scenes film strip of 2 1/4 film that I photographed in, it was either 1975 or 1976. I'm not quite sure. The XF data doesn't come on film, unfortunately. Anyway, having scanned this proof sheet just a few days ago with the Epson V850 Pro and Silverfast software, I am totally amazed with the image quality and the depth I was able to achieve. It was truly like walking back in a time machine. And as we go forward, there may be some questions that the viewers have. I certainly want to offer that opportunity. If questions do arise, please present them, because I would be very happy to talk about any of the material that we're covering. With a bit of final image spotting. Now, we used to spot prints and negatives with inks. Just a few dust and scratches. The software I use, Silverfast, does a pretty good job of scrubbing away dust and scratches, depending on the quality of and how well you preserved your negatives. Once I had that image scanned in, I used Topaz Lab Sharpen AI, artificial art intelligence that actually helps restore the image, sharpens it up. It is also remarkable to me to rediscover, and this is very important, the portrait techniques revealed in just 12 images. So if you look at these images, you can see a lot is going on. The different lights, where they are, the poses of the professional model. There's a lot of info there. A total blast to the past, about as nostalgic as it gets. I was 32 at the time. I'll be 80 next year. Teaching fashion photography to the Vivitar engineers. Of course, I did have a little help from Tommy Mitchell at his well-known Hollywood fashion studio. So once again, here we are. We're taking a closer look at this film strip. And you can see the lighting very, very clearly. You can see the light sources, and you can see the pretty amazing poses that our professional model provided for us. And there's Tommy Mitchell over there in the corner, left-hand corner. He's just turning on that hair light. But what a great light that it gives for our models. And as I had mentioned, I had proposed to management that I teach a photography class to the engineers as a way to stimulate their interest for new product design and development. Well, the engineers were thrilled to be at a fashion studio, learn about, portrait lighting, and then go back to the lab and invent new equipment. So this is slide 1, 6 images, and I was using a Rolleiflex 3.5F Zeiss Planar 75 millimeter camera, Rolleiflex. They were just the cat's meow as far as cameras were concerned. Great for wedding photography too. So here's the second group of slides, and what's remarkable about this, it looks like these slides or these negatives were developed yesterday. I mean, the tonal quality, the depth, the rich blacks, the brilliant highlights. It just blows my mind that I'm able to capture this image depth out of negatives that are 45 years old. The hot lights there, you can see that one in image 5, that's a forerunner of what we now use as a softbox. And it was basically had, quartz type lamps inside and a concave flat white surface that the light, focused on and bounced onto the subject. And you can see it makes really excellent light quality. 47 years ago, I correct myself. At any rate, this was a remarkable time in photography. Everything was DIY, and you developed your images and you printed them. It was really a great time. So 2 out of 12 behind the scenes shots created awesome portraits. Can I do that with just 12 shots now with digital? I don't know. It is so tempting to take those extra shots. Taking the photo is just one half of the process. In the days of black and white film, it was more than typical for photographers to develop their film and enlarge their prints right in their own studio, sometimes while the client waited. Through selective dodging and burning, the prints came alive. Once printed and dried, spot tone inks were used to paint over dust and scratches. Many studios hired negative retouchers to remove blemishes with a soft pencil prior to printing. Airbrushing the prints was also quite common. These techniques carried forward with the introduction of color. Photographers accustomed to black and white had to learn how to work with color to stay current and still deliver the fantasy. Does that sound anything like the introduction of digital when we all went crazy trying to figure out, how to create digital images? So here's out of the camera, a recent photo shoot at the Camarillo airfield. Below it is the post-production, the how to wow the photograph to really bring out the interest, the visual interest. So the art and importance of post-processing. So I cleaned up, the tarmac there. I took out the propeller that was just above the wing, and I enhanced the model skin tone, and also I added clouds. Now those clouds were added with software by, I believe, Topaz Labs. I'll have to look and see. I've got all these enhancement softwares that help me process images. So the question is, are you taking this extra post-processing step to allow you to sell the fantasy? Photocompositing et al. While it was possible to create composites in the camera and post-production with film, the introduction of digital photography opened up a whole new world for the now digital artist, the ability to manipulate digital images in the computer. At first, the techniques were basic. However, as technology advanced, early adapters saw the light and tried their hand at wowing their customers to sell the fantasy. So here's an example of a commercial shoot of this is a company that makes replica Harleys of, the 40s and 50s. Here's an interesting one. Can you get a photo with both of my dads? Shortly before the wedding, our bride, Heather, asked me to be sure and get a photo of her with both of her dads. Uh-oh, and they don't like each other. At first, our bride, Heather, asked me if I could get the shot of both her dads walking her down the aisle. Well, that was a bomb. It happened in a flash, and, I got a shot, but it looked pretty terrible. What do you do? After the ceremony, and this is like happening real time, after the ceremony, we went to the garden and I staged the above, and I hoped I could pull it off. I photographed the brothers, the bride and the groom. I photographed one dad, the bride and his new wife, and the other dad and his bride. Now my challenge was, could I put it all together in one photograph? Could it be done? It was 2003. That's 19 years ago. Canon had just released the EOS 10D 6.3 megapixel APS-C SLR camera, and I hoped I knew Photoshop well enough to composite the images. The church was not at all picturesque, and Heather walking down the aisle with dads on either side happened in a flash. Plan B, photograph dads separately with bride and spouse in the garden. Well, I think I pulled it off. 3 separate photographs composited into one, the bride and groom, 2 brothers and both dads. The bride was ecstatic. The original 2003 composite in the lower right as a 4:6 image. Now with Topaz Labs Gigapixel 4X, I can now enlarge that to a really large photo. And there it is, the wow factor. And this was all done 19 years ago, before there was all the fancy software, using Photoshop and careful, masking out and blending together. Now then, selling the fantasy. What does that mean? To the customer, they seek you out to create an idea to help them establish a brand identity. They want to be seen in a professional light, and they believe that you can create their vision and bring it to life. So we have the business portrait in the office. Well, those items on the wall weren't there. I brought them in Photoshop. Now here's the second part of the business portrait. We began with an idea. I design and build wrought iron chandeliers. This is what my customer told me as I went to his shop. I want my customers to see me in my shop at my design desk, which we just saw. I'm very proud of what I do, and I want my customers to feel that pride when they purchase one of my custom chandeliers. They believe that you can create their vision and bring it to life for them. Are you up to the challenge? Obviously, we have some interesting things going on in this exposure. I've got several flash units to kind of gently bring up the ambient light. Also to, bring in the light on the subject's face, as well as light up the chandeliers. And where are the cords? Well, I can cause them to disappear in Photoshop. Now then, here's crafting ad work. Once again, selling the fantasy. This is a tiny 2.5-inch bottle. And when I photographed it, all the cracks and the blemishes on that glass showed up. And they also wanted the box that the bottle came in to be photographed. Well, that was a bomb, because it was full of, fibers and so forth. So I had to recreate all of this in Photoshop using those images to start. We're introducing a new product, Agravite Serum. We need photographs of the bottle, the box, and new artwork. Photographing the bottle and box required substantial post-production artwork, reproducing their logo, blending vector shapes with the photos and stock images. Selling the fantasy. Wow factor. Getting a stock image from Adobe and putting their product in the middle of it. Who are your clients? And have you structured your business to serve them? Once again, this is at the airfield in Camarillo. This is 3 images that I put together. There were 2 models walking. I erased the one that was in front because her expression looked terrible. I added the plane on the left and also added the Jeep on the right. All in Photoshop with compositing, and I added the sky. And I cleaned up the tarmac because it was full of grease and oil and dark spots. Is this your ideal client? Anyone we know? Life of the party, happy go lightly, loves your work, and has lots of dollars. What is your business model? That is, have you structured your business around your ideal client? Or have you structured your ideal client around your desired business model? There's a very interesting distinction. Who owns your business, you or your clientele? Of course, we do want our customers to be happy with our work. Do you run your business, or does it run you? These are really important questions. Once again, this is a kind of a wow, sell the fantasy image. We, draped these satin cloths over the couch and on the floor and, in curtains. But I had to, take out blotches of sunlight and things that were coming through the windows, do some skin retouching. This is one of the pageant queens. And, we used to call her Red Hot Mama. It's spelled Haute. Any rate, another opportunity with every photograph that you take to enhance it and sell the fantasy. Here's a cover view of my book, which I will have on sale. I actually published this in 2015 in November at one of my workshops, and it has received a lot of acclaim. The coffee table.
Good. I can talk to that one. I own your book, David.
Yes, thank you so much.
I'll put a link if anybody's interested in the email that follows up, so that you got a link to David's website where he's got more info of his book and a preview and all that fun stuff.
So it took 5 years to produce this book. I started out, I was teaching a lot of workshops, and I noticed that of all the workshops that I had attended, how much information could I really, retain? I got excited and I was, thrilled to be there. But at the end of the day, how much information did I really retain? And I thought, well, gosh, wouldn't it be great if there was some kind of handout that could be given at these workshops, so that what we covered would be illustrated. And so 5 years later, and believe me, it was a work of heart and art too. So it's available as a 164-page luxurious coffee table hardcover, if I can talk, hardcover book, perfect for any decor as a go-to educational reference guide for off-camera flash. David Hobby several years ago came up with the term OCF, explained in my book, that started a long time ago with, flash powder. It was held off axis to the camera. Acclaimed by professionals as one of the best go-to books on off-camera flash. I've got lots of testimonials on my website, and it is available for purchase. Here's a couple of pages, a few pages from my book, so you can get a preview of kind of what it looks like. As you can see, there are lighting diagrams, a finished photo, and a behind-the-scenes setup of where the lights were, as well as plenty of descriptive text that is bulleted and tells you, for example, the ISO in this shot was 400. The aperture 5.6, a 30th of a second, so I could capture the ambient light. And the main light was a V850 set on 1/4 power. So all of the ingredients of how you put these things together are included. How-to tutorials. My book also takes you behind the scenes with pullback photos, lighting diagrams, and short stories about the people, the places, the camera settings, and how the stage was set to create the photographs. Each page, from cover to cover, walks you through the techniques and the lighting gear to create the scenes. Coffee table book you will want to read from cover to cover to create your own self-assignments. Here's another sneak peek of another couple of pages, and there is the lighting triangle with all of the the settings that are typical, as well as the EV chart. Now, EV is very interesting. It means exposure value. And it used to be that on film cameras, such as a Hasselblad or a Rollei, that once you get the EV value, the exposure value from your light meter, you set that into your camera, and now you can simultaneously adjust the aperture and the shutter speed, as long as you know the ISO that you're using, or in the days of film, the ASA. So once you have that exposure value, and for example, sunny 16, which means that we're shooting at daylight, 12 noon. Our aperture is f/16. Our shutter speed is the film speed, or the ISO we're using. So with 125 film or 125 digital setting in your ISO on your camera, then you're going to be shooting at 125th of a second, and you will get a very accurate exposure if you have a clear sky. So that's an EV value of 15. And that's kind of interesting. But once you know the EV value, which is old history, as far as our photographers today's, you can then adjust the dial on your camera, and your aperture and shutter speed will change simultaneously to maintain that EV value. And that's all fully explained in my book. So story 1 here depicts Wings of Victory. And it took a full year to gather all of the elements to create the setting. The model was a bride that a friend of mine had photographed a couple of years earlier. And she was now out of state. But I saw those photographs and I thought, wow, I would love to have that model be at the Commemorative Air Force Aviation Museum in Mesa, Arizona, when the B-17 is there and takes some amazing photos. Well, it took a year to get all the ingredients together. The B-17 was on the tarmac. The weather was, it was November, so it wasn't overly hot. The bride had come back into town because she had had a baby and her folks lived in Arizona. Any rate, hair, makeup, dress, shoes, etc., all had to come together for that to occur. So in the following pages of my book, I will go through that story and share with you some of the iconic images that were captured. The settings, lighting positions, and the classic opportunity of creating, in this case, a self-assignment for my book. An iconic 1940s era photograph. This is the lighting setup that we used. There were 4 lights here, and it shows, what their value and position and so forth is in the book. It's also quite amazing that in this particular frame, there's a cloud formation that looks like a jet airplane deploying a rocket and a missile. That's totally bizarre. We're depicting a 1940s scene, and here is the futuristic of aviation coming into the sky. And I did not plant that there. It was totally a gift. So a little bit uncanny, but, kind of helps make the shot. So, are you a pro wedding photographer? Are you prepared to excel in your craft and help promote the distinction between a pro and an amateur shoot and burn photographer? I wanted to remind everyone who is watching the program, because I'm yapping here, hopefully providing some useful information, but I'm certainly open to fielding questions along the way, if you have them, because this has been a very, very long journey for me in, developing my craft. And I love teaching and sharing the information that I have gained over the years. So this photograph was of a wedding I shot here in Arizona. I'm guessing about, 2004 or something like that. And the bride and groom were going down for the group photos after the ceremony. And I saw them standing there in that archway and their shadow being projected on the wall. And I grabbed my camera and I ran over to them and I said, "Hold it." And I grabbed the shot. It was a total gift, but it was a moment that happened. We have a very famous wedding photographer whose name I am at the moment forgetting. He made a really interesting statement. There are no perfect photographs. There are just perfect moments. Well, I believe this is one of those perfect moments. It happened, for a few seconds, and there it was, an iconic image. So, are you prepared to capture those perfect moments? Are you actively engaged in continuing your education, continuing with self-assignments to improve your skill set? Because it is only through that and the practice that you will be able to sell the fantasy. Who as a bride and groom would dream that they would have an image like that? It's, the wedding day goes by so quickly, and it is a flurry for the bride and groom for sure. But there it is, that few moments captured in time that makes an iconic image. So are you ready to create and sell the fantasy and create wedding memories? That is, are you a pro? Is excellent and creativity in your work? These are questions which you really need to ask yourself if you're willing to take the extra step, go the extra mile, so that you can produce images that will wow your clients. Do you photograph high school seniors? Another thing which is important is, do you have materials that you can print to help sell your work? It's called print collateral. So are you able to do a whole series or a book on your pricing strategy? Are you able to, create images like the one in the center there that will help you sell your work? You have to have, in my mind, print collateral. You have to have a body of work that you can share with your colleagues and your clients, such that who you are, what is important to you, and how you create images is visually communicated. Do you go the extra mile? In a word, yes, I hope. Have you structured your pricing? This is a postcard, front and back, that I created for sending out, mailing, and also emailing to potential clients. It's very straightforward and very simple, uses a beautiful image, and it spells out in simple terms how a bride and groom can plan their wedding photography and what it will cost them. So the engagement session, which includes 50 save the date cards, wedding day photography per hour, includes lighting assistant, post-processing, and web viewing, bride and groom romantic session, $12.75. Now, I like to include that romantic session in my weddings because I then get the bride and groom on their own without the hustle and bustle of what's going on in the wedding. And I can spend a few hours with them that are intimate and meaningful. Now, it does require a little extra work on the part of the bride and groom, but it's fully worth it in what you're able to create for them. Now then, have you priced your photography appropriately? Because in order to be profitable with your photography business, your photography income should exceed your fixed and variable expenses and provide you with a reasonable profit after taxes, not just simple profit of cost of goods versus what you sell it for. You have your fixed and variable expenses, and you have your end of year taxes. And if you have employees, and at one time I had 5 employees working for me, they need to be paid. So that's part of your fixed and variable expenses. So PPA has designed a process called managerial accounting, which differs quite a bit from tax accounting. Managerial accounting allows you to have day-to-day vision of what your business is doing. It's really worthwhile looking into. So here's an advertising photo for Barrett Jackson, which I did a few years ago. I had set up this photo session in a large studio here in Phoenix. We were going to raffle off this car. This is a Cobra kit. And so we launched a photo session in a very large studio that had a cyclorama, which is a coving. It's an endless backdrop so that you don't really see, where the backdrop and the floor meet. So the question is, opportunity knocks but once. I've heard somebody say that. Do you really believe it? This author, me, I guess, fully subscribes to the notion that opportunities are made through perseverance and steadiness of purpose. Make a better mousetrap and the world will come knocking at your door. Create excellence and sell the fantasy. How are you communicating to your clients what you will be giving to them in their session? This is a page from my sales brochure, the Business Professional's Portrait Session Experience. Defining your business portrait goals. Do you have print collateral? Do you need it? I would say yes. You need a way of handing your customers something that they can look at. Digital imaging on computers are great, but if that's all you deliver, then you have no idea what kind of a screen that your clients are looking at your images on. And if you're shooting and burning, if you're letting them download images that are just straight out of your camera, how is that going to make you as a photographer look? Because as I had mentioned before, taking the photograph is only half of the process. It is necessary to do professional retouching, professional image enhancement, professional, lose distracting elements, wispy hairs, etc. So there are several ways to advertise one's business. Social media has presented itself as the crown king, but good old-fashioned print media still holds its own. Let's take a little look at what my pricing guide brochure allows my customer to understand. Before deciding on the style of business portrait you want to commission, we will schedule a brief consultation to define your business and marketing goals. As professionals, photographers, we are working with professionals. We have that opportunity. We have to present them a professional guide. Who are you reaching out to in your professional role? Your experience base, what is it? And what are you offering? And how will you strategically provide your expertise or product lines to your ideal customer base? We're talking now to a business person that they want a portrait of themselves that says something about them. This gentleman, Kevin, is a real estate agent. In this photograph, he looks friendly and engaging. That comes about not only because of his personality, but because of a little coaching of what to wear, how to express himself, how to create that look that he wants his customers to see. Once we define this, we'll focus on the visual messaging you want to achieve in your portrait session that aligns you with your professional goals. That is, to ensure that the style and body language of your portrait is speaking your customer's language. That is, does the body language of your brand provide a clear statement? That not only holds true for the business professionals that you may be working with, but it holds true for you as photographers. Does your appearance, does your manner, does your style, does your professionalism speak to your craft? Let's make sure your customers can easily understand the solutions you're providing for them. An essential part of that process is your personal branding portrait. The 1,000 words that says you in the best possible light. We're all familiar with a photo is worth 1,000 words, so we need to convey that. So in your personal branding portrait session, and by the way, I've reached out a few times. I don't know how many we have in our audience today, but I'm certainly happy to field questions if there are some.
So far, no questions.
Okay.
Yeah, and just
All
a heads
right.
up, we have about 7 minutes till it's time for prizes.
Oh, wonderful.
I
Okay,
know
well, I'll
time's
scoot
flying
through
by.
this. Yes, I'll scoot through this then. So if you're a business executive on a new adventure or an industry professional looking to rebrand yourself for a new or existing market, the place to continue your journey is with a professional rebranding portrait session. And that goes on. Let's go to the next slide. Hone your photographic skills.
Do have a question from Yeti, wanting to know
Yes.
if that information that you just put up there is in your book.
That information is in my pricing guide, which I can share it's online. I can share the link with you so that you can send it out.
Sure, we can do that. Or worst case scenario, I'll send you David's email address, and you can send him a message and be able to communicate that way, Yeti.
Yes, you bet. And I've got a whole array of images like that are in my pricing guide with all kinds of wonderful information. So this is a photograph which I composited to show a specific type of lighting, which I call the anatomy of specular highlights in portraiture. And if you can see on the model's face, we have these soft highlights that really define her features very well. And I have a blog post all about this on my website. So if you go to my website and go to my blog, this is the most recent one. Any endeavor you decide to pursue deserves the very best from you. Differentiate your skill set from amateur photographers. That is very, very important. There are lots and lots of amateur photographers out there, and they are grabbing customers right and left, customers that don't know the difference until we educate them. Embrace your personal goals for education. Learn from the best and perfect your craft. Become involved with professionals. Once again, hone your photographic skills. So here's a close-up of that lighting style. And you can see that it creates these wonderful specular highlights on our model's face. As you continue to grow in your photography business, make a point to try something new. Create self-assignments to try out new techniques, lighting, posing, set design, and especially post-processing. These two images didn't come directly out of the camera. You know, the basis for them was there, but I had to very carefully, enhance and manipulate and pull out, little distracting elements, perhaps, strands of hair across the model's face. However, add the light was there. I set that up that way, but I added the background in both these images.
So I do have a question from Paige about your book. Is it possible to get an autographed copy of it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Just, if you email me and also text me, and Chris will send out my info. If you text me, then I will be able to, give me your information, where to mail it, etc. And then we can actually do the transaction via phone with your credit card. And I will personally, I'll know your name and I'll write in. I do that on quite a few instances. So I'm happy to do that. And I'll mail it to you in a carefully protected cardboard container. As long as you are perfecting your craft, you are growing in your desired field. A blend of natural talent and strong desire to achieve beyond the ordinary will ultimately guide you towards your goals. I've been doing this for over 50 years, and I don't know if I'm a slow learner, but some of it rubbed off over some time.
Well, something
But I keep it going. This image here is from one of my workshops, and it's in my book with the lighting diagram. And it's quite a fun image. I was trying to create that, Robin Hood, Sherwood Forest, look with some sun peeking in behind the trees there. And it's all done with off-camera flash.
I have a question from Rita. So when you say self-assignment, is that the same thing as a passion project?
Yes, I think so. It's basically that you have an idea that you want to try, and you set about with yourself the circumstances to create it. So, for example, I'm working with a costume designer. So we created this image to the left. We are, I guess you'd say, we're promoting each other. She produces costumes and I produce, images. So we wanted a cool image, of her flapper's dress on a pretty model. And so that was, I guess you would say, would be straddle the fence between a self-assignment and, working for a customer, but we're both using the image to promote, our work. So, whoops, let me back up a slide here if I can.
Yeah, and we are pretty close to the end of time. Just a heads up on that one.
Okay. Yeah, so let me grab this one for you. And if we run out, this is This is the PPA benchmark, a key to profitability. Very important to understand these principles. Every product or service you sell or provide should in itself be profitable. It should have a defined profit margin. Cost of goods sold, the materials and labor required to create a product A, we'll call it. The difference between your cost of goods sold and your selling price is your net or simple profit. That is your revenue minus the cost of goods sold divided by the revenue equals profit margin. According to the National Benchmark Survey conducted by the PPA, your net profit margin for product A should be around 67%, which is equivalent to multiplying your cost of goods sold by about 3.3. This equals your profitable selling price for product A. Well, this is not a true formula. It's, let me get back to it here real quick. Well, this is not a true formula. Where's my place?
There you are.
There we are. Its basis will provide a profitable margin once you subtract your operating costs and year-end taxes from your net profit. Designing around this will give you a good starting place for building your pricing structure. Follow the link below for some inspiration. Actually, this is the link for my pricing schedule. I'll take you there real quickly. And as you can see, these are all the pages
We
in
can't.
my
I think when in the sharing, we're just sharing your keynote versus being able to see
Oh,
the
oh,
web.
oh, I see. All right. Screen sharing. Okay, well, I'll have to go. Anyway,
Actually,
it's on
how about
that
I give
link.
away, David, if you want to stop sharing and then reshare, I'm going to give away
Yeah.
some prizes real quick, and we'll hit that up at the very end then.
Great, great.
There we go. Okay, so while we're doing that, I'm going to give away some prizes because we love prizes, right? So up first, we've got a $50 lab credit. So let's see who's going to win this one. Hey, and our $50 winner is Pam. Oop, let me put that back up there so we can actually see Pam. Congratulations, Pam. We're going to go our next one, which is a $75 lab credit. And that one's going to be... Gotta wait for the spin. And that one's Tammy. Congratulations, Tammy. And now we've got a $100 lab credit. So let's see who that winner is. Hey, and it's Carolyn. Congratulations on those prizes. I do also want to let you know about a special that ACI has going on right now. Exclusively for us. Oop, I keep on hitting buttons and taking away. There we go. You can get a $50 off of an order of $200 or more from Background Town. So that's definitely a nice way to save money. But ACI just dropped their Black Friday specials, which is good through the 28th. Where you can actually get 60% off of ultracloth and fleece backgrounds and 45% off of rubber mat flooring. That's a bargain. Definitely check that one out, as well as their buy one, get one free for their press cards. That goes through December 2nd, and 30% off of calendars. So you're going to want to check those out because those are some crazy good deals that are going there. Also want to let you know about some upcoming presentations. We've got Sharon LaBelle doing photo adventures and James Flashbart doing wedding photography, how to connect with your clients. And if you do have ideas for future episodes, email me, hello@cwooley.com. That's how we come up with these episodes. The ideas for content, things like that is from you. So make sure that we're talking there. All right, David, were we able to pull up your website?
Yes,
Oh,
this is actually my pricing schedule. Are you able to see it on
yep,
your
we're
screen there?
here. It's broadcasting.
So these are all of the pages, which I have in PDF format that I print out, but you can then, click on them and view the page with all the text and, go from page to page. Um, and let's see, let's go back. Want to get back to well, we'll just go page to page here rather than the whole
I think the X in the upper
chart.
right corner gets you back to them all.
Oh, that's the video thing is right in the way. There we go. Okay. So as you can see, I've got, really nice photographs to show the clients and then give them information about, the pricing for each product type. For example, here's the professional, branding and personal headshots. Um, and come to think of it, I need to add the page that I showed today on the to this because I'm seeing that it's not actually in the group. I created it recently and I thought I had put it up there. So, at any rate, this will give you a really good overview of how to structure, the types of work that you produce and provide, and kind of fun. But it's also an opportunity to show off, some of your better images.
Yeah, it's definitely nice to have some of that assets available so that you can communicate with your clients and sell yourself well. But
Hmm.
we are officially out of time, and it's getting late on the East Coast, and tomorrow's Turkey Day. So thank you so very much for joining us, David. It's always a pleasure getting to peek behind the scenes and to see what you do and how you do it. You definitely have some great content, and for anybody that's wondering, this is what his book looks like. It's quite impressive. It's thick, coffee table, like it's really, really nice. Got all of his full diagrams, pictures. Trying to show it here so we can see everything. Definitely worth checking out. It's a wealth of information. I've learned a lot from it. I've studied it. And getting to see David present in person, definitely worth it too if you ever get the opportunity. All right, that's my little plug, David, but I'm a fan of
Thank
you.
you.
I'm definitely a fan.
Well, it goes two ways there, Chris. I'm delighted to know you as well as I do. It's a
All right.
pleasure.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, and have a wonderful evening and a happy Thanksgiving. And we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks.